Hello, dear students, dear classmates, and teacher. My name is Ernesto Salguero. Very nice to meet you. Very happy to be here and introduce myself as a 10th semester student from the career of Licenciatura en Lenguas Extranjeras con énfasis en inglés, bachelor's degree, and here in the development of one of the activities of the course teacher development, where we are going to discuss or where I'm going to share the reflection that I have related to a class observation that was made on the Inglés Sin Fronteras Club. Okay, this club was established in Ibagué. Okay, one of the facilities, virtual facilities, because this observation was made on a virtual environment. And the goal or the objective of this club is to open the doors for many students that don't have they maybe don't have the opportunity of the chance to pay for an English course, so they get this chance to learn English through the university. Some of the students are minors with ages between 12 and 17, and others are adults up to 50 years old, even 55 years old. Okay, elderly people, and of course teenagers and young adults. Okay, mid-age adults too, from different parts of Colombia. The different parts of Colombia that are involved in this process are many. For example, Amazonia, for example, Bucaramanga, for example, the coast, also Tumaco, Choco. There are many territories that make part of this initiative, of this process, and is very fulfilling the way in which this type of processes develop and unfold, because you are open to give the opportunity to many students that otherwise couldn't be able wouldn't be able, sorry, to solve this type of desire to learn the language. All right, so the different aspects that we have to take into account here is that they are basic level students, some of them even under basic, but the majority of the cases, we have some surprises because the students already have some background with English due to social media. You know, today all people uses social media, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and it's very common to find TikToks, to find content, videos, reels that are in English. All right, some of them, or the majority of them, of all of them, have subtitles for the understanding, others don't. But people are interacting with the language in a more consistent basis than was before. You know, so some students came with few information, with a little information about English. Even they didn't know where this information came from, because the majority of them were just basic beginner students, right? So I will discuss different points about this reflection with the students. Take into consideration this a virtual environment. Also, there were more or less five or four teachers. Um, the students were students from around Colombia, from all the territory, okay, from different economical backgrounds. All right, some of them were low class, some of them were higher class. It was a very good mix, and we're going to discuss more in depth, specifically the points that are related to the observation of this session. Okay, so the bullet points of this information I divided into five, which the first one is classroom management. Okay, being a virtual space, the main situation is not the discipline of the students, it's their participation. You know, when you are in a virtual environment, it's quite easy to mute students, to let people out of the meeting, and you have many chances to control the situation. All right, but there's another problem that arises with this modality, and is the participation. Because sometimes, if the teacher, for what I saw, doesn't start to call the students, like Juanita, give me your opinion, Hernando, give me your opinion, Ernesto, let's talk about this, solve this. And the teacher only waits for the students to be volunteers in the process. Nothing is going to happen, or the majority of the times, if not all of them, the same students are going to continue participating, which is good, but there are going to be many other students that are not going to participate, whether it's because they don't care about the lesson, maybe they are ashamed of speaking or expressing in English, maybe they don't understand, at the same time they feel that they are not brave enough to give an opinion or to ask a question. There are many factors here, but here with the classroom management, what I saw was the students had this issue of no participating sometimes, and on the other hand, when the teacher had the opportunity to to get good students to participate, was the flow of the class was excellent, was very good. But in this case, the classroom management is easy. The discipline, to keep the discipline, is easy, but to get the students encouraged to participate, that's the hard part. Okay. The working space. One situation here with the working space is that if the teacher of the students don't have a good internet connection, is done. Nothing's going to happen. All right. No solution is going to arise. No solving. Nothing's going to happen, because um, this is the basis of everything, of online teaching and online learning. If you don't have a good internet connection, nothing's going to work properly. Going beyond this, take considering that the students and the teacher already have a good connection, then comes the expertise of the teacher using the tools. Okay, the working space is teams, the teams, and also the other spaces where students can express, for example, Padlet, or where they can do Kahoots and all that, but that is more specific to the use of materials. But back to the working space, was a good working space. Not many students had problems with the connection. Out of 25, more or less, only like three or four were having some internet connection problems, but then they were solved. So the working space worked perfectly. I consider that using this type of online spaces is very productive. Okay. In the use of materials, sometimes the teachers were short in materials because it was important that they were able to have the expertise to use different types of resources. The majority of times they use WordWall, Quizy, EducaPlay, which is fine. It's very good. But the teachers need to have more dynamics related to multimedia processes and multimedia tools like YouTube, and also the use of different pages with interactive games. Some teachers did have this type of resources, others didn't. But at the end of the day, you don't know if it was because they didn't have the knowledge to get these tools to run them, or basically they didn't put the effort, because obviously these classes are for free. So some students don't put the biggest of their efforts there, and that's one of the clear reasons here. But the use of materials was fine, was okay. I consider that the students like them. They are not accustomed to use this type of tools because, as you know, in the schools, is something that is not quite spread. So yeah, for students was a novelty, and for some of the teachers too. The clarity on topics and activities was excellent because it was clear that the students were basic, so the teachers keep everything on that level. Sometimes going a little bit beyond that basic level, but a little bit. But later, like after they found out which students were able to manage or to use the language in a more proficient way, after that they presented other topics, and they presented different resources. Okay, so the clarity of the topics was very good. very concise and solid. I consider that. As a conclusion, what I see here is that teachers need to be more energetic. Teachers need to have a bit more of initiative. They cannot let the students take the lead if the student is not competent. Sometimes you find some good students that are actually better than the teacher, and that is not so common. Sometimes it is. Okay, it's quite mixed up. But at the end of the day, if the teacher doesn't take the lead, like for example, calling the students, um, giving their his opinions, and also like maybe forcing them a bit to work with him, it's not going to happen because everything is going to get stagnant. It's going to be static because the students, mm, let's be honest here and let's say it clear. The majority of the students don't want to work. They want just the result or the good grade. Okay? Some of them may want to work, may want the English, or even the majority of them. But they don't get the idea that this takes time and effort and discipline and work and practice and all that. All right? So the teacher, to keep the students on track, he maybe doesn't need to be quite strict, but he will need to have a bit of, how can I say this, a bit of initiative, a strong initiative, to get the students to be inspired by him or her. Because if the energy of the teacher is low, he expresses slowly, and also he looks anxious or afraid, the students are not going to be represented by this, and they are not going to feel like the language of the topic of study is something inspiring or something interesting, because the only window they have is that, the teacher. So my conclusion here will be like the use of the space, the materials, and the clarity of the topic and the classroom management was as a whole good. But these little details, like for example, connection, more use of materials, making the students participate, try to add new topics that challenge the students a bit more, and also being able to have this type of, let's say, aggressive or energetic approach to the students will be an excellent structure to follow when you're dealing with all these different backgrounds, social backgrounds of different people. Thank you very much for your attention. I hope that you have liked this presentation, and I see you in another time.